We have a big election in the United States this year, and in this video, we're going to talk about election-themed designs, but not just the designs. We're also going to talk about different product ideas that would lend themselves to those election-themed designs. So let's dive in. All right, before we actually talk about some ideas for designs and products, let's take a second and talk about what to avoid, things you want to avoid including in your designs, or just themes that you want to keep out of your designs in the language that you use to describe your listings, because they could lead to your listings being taken down or even your shop being suspended. So I will link to this page in the description of this video. This is the Etsy seller policies. More specifically, if I scroll up to the top here, these are the prohibited items, and this is effective starting July 29th, 2024. So this is actually in advance. I'm recording this on July 6th, but this section of the policy has been updated effective July 29th. So this definitely applies during the election season for 2024. And we're going to focus in a couple of key areas here. So there are sections to this policy. The first thing we're going to focus on is section number 4, which is hate items. The details section here describes that Etsy doesn't allow items or listings with violent or degrading language towards people based upon race, ethnicity, national origin, religion, gender identity, disability, sexual orientation, immigration status, or caste. Those are protected classes according to the Etsy policy. And more specifically, they actually describe a few things that are not allowed on Etsy. So there are a couple here that clearly, could wind up in a politically themed design around, the presidential election, around the campaigns. So definitely pay attention to this and make sure that nothing you're putting in your designs could be considered violating this policy, because it can lead to your listings, of course, being taken down, but potentially even your shop being suspended or banned if you have enough listings that get taken down. Now, the other section, which is probably a little bit less likely to apply here, but also could technically apply, is section 8 about violent items or items that promote, support, or glorify violence. So any messaging that, would potentially talk about doing harm to the other candidates or to the other party, definitely stay away from that. Of course, that messaging is not good for anybody, but it also can get your shop banned. Now, there is one other thing I want to mention before we go further, and that is to always, just as you would with any other designs, make sure you're checking your trademarks and don't use exact logos or the exact type of design from the campaigns themselves, because chances are they have trademarked those designs in the text. And for example, here is one from the Biden campaign that was trademarked in 2020, which still is a valid live trademark. So, you wouldn't just want to create a design that copies this style, because this is protected by trademark and you could have your listing taken down. Same thing goes for all the candidates in these elections. And also, it doesn't hurt to double check your trademarks. If there is a particular phrase that they use, like a slogan for their campaign, you definitely want to check trademarks for those things also and not include those in your designs. Just like any other design, you just want to double check this before you put out anything that could be already protected by trademark. All right, with all that said, let's talk about a couple things that you can do design-wise, and also why it's important to consider additional products. Now, of course, t-shirts are generally the big seller. T-shirts become very popular during especially big elections like the presidential election in the United States, and there's a lot of different designs you can do. T-shirts are a very popular item. They sold well for me at the last presidential election. I did have my Etsy shop in 2020 for the last presidential election in the United States, and t-shirts sold well for me. However, t-shirts are definitely not the only product that sell well during a presidential election in the United States. And then we'll get to that in just a second. But first, let's talk about a couple of directions you can go besides maybe the super obvious, because the most obvious thing to do would be designs that are themed about the candidates. Sayings, slogans, potentially funny things, of course, always sell well. So things that, aim to make people laugh can always sell well. But there are also several other directions you can go. I just searched for Vote 2024 on Etsy and popped open Everbee's product analytics here. Now, it is July, so we're not in the peak season for when these designs will sell. At the last presidential election, for me, my sales really picked up in September. They continued through October, right up until the election. And then actually, you might think that it all just ends on election day as far as sales go, but that's actually not true. The candidate that wins and the party that wins the election, generally you see another like mini boom in sales after the election results are finalized, because people want to celebrate, that their candidate won. Keep that in mind. Don't assume your sales are going to just stop immediately on election day in November. But anyway, there are a couple things that are already selling that have some monthly sales volume. As you can see, there definitely are ones that are geared towards the actual candidates. However, another direction you can go is supporting just getting out and voting, and also some of the issues that are on the ballot, some of the things that are at stake, so to speak, with the election. Here's an example of one that is voting themed. And if we take a look at this listing, so this is just an example of how you can take a very simple concept, basically just getting the message out to get out there and vote, and including some different graphic elements in the design versus it all just being text. Of course, there are more classic get out and vote type designs. Here's one that I really quickly threw together on Kittl, and I'm going to use this to talk about another product that's a good idea to at least consider for your shop, especially if you have a design that starts to sell well on t-shirts. This is a very basic design, just vote 2024. I used Kittl's AI image generator using the mascot clip art style, and we have a mascot here of the Constitution wearing sunglasses, so this is just something that came together really quickly using Kittl's AI. And you notice the shape of this. This is actually made to be either a bumper sticker or a car magnet, because those are items that I would recommend considering. For example, Printify now has these car magnets. They come in a nice size, like 10 by 3 is a size very similar to a bumper sticker. They are made in the US. They are very affordable, actually. I'm really happy with the pricing they have here. Now, this is Printify Premium, but we're looking at probably $12.99 retail with free shipping to get a pretty good above 30% profit margin on this. You could even go a tiny bit higher on that, or you could charge for shipping, of course. These are a great option because they don't permanently stick to your car. They're very easy to remove. So customers might be more interested in a magnet than a bumper sticker. And they're not the only ones. I believe T-Launch has these available, and a couple other platforms also have these. So this is a product that I definitely would consider, especially as a secondary item. If you start to have t-shirt designs that start to move for you, start to sell. Let's say I was selling this design on a t-shirt and it started selling for me. This would be a great one to size it down for this 10 by 3 size, and I've got some potential additional sales there. Now, if I hop over onto eRank, I was just looking for some keyword phrase ideas. And so I threw in a few different combinations of things related to the election just to see what the related keyword phrases it would give me, as well as the average search volume. As you can see, there's a few things here. I wanted to show this because there are a lot of different ways that you can use some of these phrases for your tags, as well as in your titles of your listings. Now, some of these are very generic, but it actually gives me a couple of ideas here. So as you can see, we're starting to see search volume related to the names of the candidates. When you create a design themed for one of the candidates, don't forget to include in your tags or potentially in your title phrases like this: anti, and then the other candidate's name, and then potentially, the product name, depending on what it is. But don't forget to phrase it sort of both ways in your product titles and your tags, because you're never really sure which way somebody is searching for it. And as you can see, there is search volume even for this example here. Now, garden flag, those two words alone have nothing to do with the election, but that gives me another idea. And it reminds me, I did also want to mention that flags are another good potential idea for your designs. Most design tools these days make it really easy to scale up your designs. For example, if you use Canva, let's say you've made a t-shirt design on Canva, and now this is just one of Canva's templates here. This isn't a design that I intend to actually use for the 2024 presidential election. This is just a simple student council template. But let's say that you created your design on Canva, and maybe it was for t-shirts or something like that, and now you want to take that design and use it for a flag or a yard sign. You can create a copy of your original file if you want to keep the t-shirt design by itself, but you can also use the resize options on Canva very quickly and easily to resize this canvas if it needs to be now in a landscape format for a yard sign. Or if the aspect ratio is good, all you have to do is go to share, and when you do download, you can use the size multiplier here to scale it up and make it larger, or you can also download it as an SVG so that you can scale it without losing quality. So there are a lot of ways that you can make multi-purpose designs around the election, where maybe you start off with it for a t-shirt or something like that, and you can very quickly and easily repurpose it, or even just use the same file if you have it as an SVG. And you can get it onto products like these here. This is the Garden and House banner. I have actually reviewed a sample of this from Printify in the past. There's a couple different sizes. The bigger size, 24.5 by 32, is actually pretty good size here. These have a double-sided print, and the pricing on them is pretty reasonable. So this would be another product potentially if you have especially a full color design, something that has already sort of that filled-in background in the design. Lends itself very well to the flags as well as to the more landscape yard sign orientation, those types of signs as well. Another product that sold well for me around the last election was mugs. And again, all of the different design themes we've already talked about, whether it's specifically things about the candidate, things that are kind of generic, just about getting out and voting, funny sayings, intended to make people laugh. All of those things are fair game and good ideas for mugs as well. And again, this can be a way for you to repurpose some of your t-shirt designs also if you've got t-shirt designs that start selling. So again, this is another great sort of supporting product. Another product would be hats. Now, this is a product where you don't have a ton of options currently on Printify, but on Printful, if you use Printful for your print-on-demand fulfillment, you do have a good selection of hats, and Printful does a nice job with their embroidery. So you've got some great options here for embroidered hats, which could also be great supporting products, especially for your simpler designs, that are, mostly color text with maybe one or two basic types of graphics in them. For the 2024 election, hats are another popular item. And like I mentioned, don't forget to think outside the box with your designs. It doesn't all have to be just, names of candidates, basic slogans, and then just get out and vote. Here's a couple examples of, some funny ones that don't actually name any of the candidates. Here's one, vote like Ruth sent you. There are a lot of different directions you can go with these. So those are a few directions that you can go with your election themed designs. And if I had to prioritize personally, based on the product performance of the 2020 election for me with my Etsy shop, I would prioritize starting with designs aimed for t-shirts, and then apply those same designs that would work from a shape standpoint onto mugs, and also look for opportunities to adapt your designs or create a few designs for the car magnets and bumper stickers, because those did sell pretty well for me at the last election as well. And then I would put the additional products like your hats, your tote bags, the yard signs and garden flags on kind of like a third tier of product. Not that they don't sell, they certainly do. Some customers will come out looking only for those products, but in my past experience, those were a little bit lower volume than the t-shirts and then the mugs and the bumper stickers or car magnets. So that'll do it for this video. I hope it was helpful. I hope it gives you some ideas to get you started for the election season in 2024 in the United States. Let me know if you have any questions. Don't forget to subscribe to the POD Insights channel. Thank you to all subscribers. I really do appreciate your support. Thanks, everybody. See you next time.